Forest spirits. The railroad tracks ran east and west, but Caleb Mills only knew one direction away. His boots crunched on frozen gravel. Each step sent a cold ache up through his heels into his knees. He hadn't slept in 2 days. His backpack held 3 granola bars, a dead phone, and a folded letter from the principal that he couldn't bring himself to throw away. Expelled, permanent record, not welcome back. The words repeated in his head like a song he hated. Dawn bled gray over the tree line. The town of Millbrook sat behind him 2 miles back, its water tower just visible over the ridge. He'd walked since midnight, circling the rail yard to avoid the police. His mother's car had been in the driveway when he left. He didn't look back then. He wouldn't look back now. A freight train passed 100 yards to his left. The horn howled twice, low and mournful. Diesel smoke hung in the still air. Caleb pulled his jacket tighter. The zipper was broken. The wind found every gap in the fabric. He stopped under a concrete overpass. The arch blocked the wind. Icicles hung from the drainage pipes like teeth. He slid down the embankment, sat on a concrete block, and pulled out the letter. Dear Mr. Mills, after review of the incident involving physical assault on another student. His hands were shaking, not from cold. The fight replayed in his memory. Mark Henderson's face, twisted and smug. The words, your mom's a drunk. Everyone knows it. Caleb had been suspended before. He'd been warned, but that word drunk, it unlocked something in his chest. His fist connected with Mark's nose. Blood sprayed. Mark screamed. Teachers pulled them apart. Caleb hadn't said a word in his defense. What was there to say? Wolf Ticket, the old janitor, had muttered while Caleb cleaned out his locker. That's what they used to call it in the old days. Means you don't belong anywhere now. Caleb folded the letter, stuffed it back in his backpack. He counted his resources: 3 granola bars, half a bottle of water, $15 in crumpled bills, a pocket knife, and a lighter that might still have fluid. His phone showed no signal. The battery bar blinked red. He should call his mom. He knew that. But what would he say? I'm sorry. I'm scared. I'm never coming back. He ate half a granola bar, chewed slowly. The sugar tasted like guilt. The wind picked up. He needed shelter. There was a dump about a mile ahead. He'd seen it from the train tracks last summer, when he and his friends used to sneak out there to smoke cigarettes. Abandoned appliances. Piles of scrap metal. A couple of old sheds. It wasn't warm, but it was out of sight. He walked. The tracks curved north. The trees grew thicker. Snow patches clung to the shadows. He passed a broken fence, a discarded tire, a shoe that had been there so long it had frozen into the mud. The dump smelled like rust and rot. He picked his way through the debris. A collapsed billboard advertised a motel that had closed 10 years ago. Behind it, a clearing opened up. And then he saw it. A wolf. Massive. Gray fur matted with frost and something dark blood. It lay on its side, tangled in a rusted trap. The metal jaws had closed around its hind leg. The fur around the wound was black with dried blood. Caleb froze. The wolf lifted its head. One eye watched him, yellow, calm, ancient. The other eye was closed, crusted with something white. The animal didn't growl, didn't snarl, just watched. Caleb's heart pounded. He'd never seen a wolf before. Coyotes, sure, foxes, but this was different. This was something that had never needed a human for anything. The wolf's chest rose and fell, fast, shallow. Caleb stepped closer. The wolf's lip twitched but didn't lift. Easy, Caleb whispered. His voice cracked. I'm not gonna hurt you. He didn't know why he said it. The wolf couldn't understand, but the animal kept watching, and something in that yellow eye made Caleb's throat tighten. He took another step, reached toward the trap. The wolf's lip lifted. A single fang showed. Caleb's hand stopped. A frozen second stretched between them. Then footsteps behind him, gravel crunching. Don't move, kid. A flashlight beam cut through the gray dawn. Caleb turned his head slowly. A man stood at the edge of the clearing, bundled in a heavy coat, a dark beard hiding most of his face. In his other hand, a long metal pipe. The wolf growled, low, deep. The man stepped closer. That's Nayez, he said, the prince, and you're about to get yourself killed. Caleb didn't move. His hand hung in the air 6 inches from the trap. The wolf's growl vibrated through the ground, through the soles of his boots. The man with the pipe lowered it, back away. Slow. Caleb stepped back. His legs felt like they belonged to someone else. The man crouched 10 feet from the wolf. The flashlight beam played over the animal's body. He's been here 3 days, the man said. Maybe 4. That trap's from Dobbs. Illegal as hell. Who's Dobbs? Caleb's voice came out thin. Trapper. Poacher. Drunk, the man spit into the snow. He's been after this wolf for 2 years. Killed half his pack with poison. The prince survived. Now Dobbs wants the pelt. Caleb looked at the wolf again. The animal had stopped growling. Its eye fixed on the man now. You know him? Caleb asked. Everyone knows him around here. Name's Victor. The man stood. He was older than Caleb first thought, maybe 60, with deep creases around his eyes and a limp when he walked. Used to be a vet. Now I just live in a trailer and keep my mouth shut. Can you help him? Victor laughed without humor. Help him? Kid, animal control will put him down before noon. Dobbs will skin him by sunset. The only help that wolf needs is a clean death. Caleb's stomach turned. No. Victor raised an eyebrow. You got a better idea. Caleb looked at the wolf, at the trap, at the blood. I can take care of him, Caleb said. The words came out before he thought them. Victor stared at him. You're a runaway. I can see it on your face. You got nowhere to go, no food, no warm place to sleep. And you want to take care of a wild animal that could rip your throat out. He hasn't ripped my throat out yet. Victor shook his head. He turned and limped back toward the path. I'm calling the sheriff. They'll handle it. Wait. Victor stopped, didn't turn around. Please, Caleb said. The word felt strange in his mouth. He didn't say please, not to anyone. Victor turned. His eyes softened for just a moment, then hardened again. Listen to me, boy. That wolf is not a pet. He's not a hero. He's a survivor. 3 years ago, he had a pack of 7. 7 wolves. Dobbs put out poison meat, killed 6 of them. The prince watched his family die, and now he hunts alone because that's all he knows how to do. Caleb swallowed. Sounds familiar. Victor looked at him for a long time. The wind blew between them. The wolf's breathing grew heavier. You want to know the worst part? Victor said quietly. The prince knows Dobbs set the trap. He knows Dobbs will come back, but he won't leave, because the trap caught him near the place where his pack died. He'd rather die there than run. Caleb looked at the wolf's eye. The yellow wasn't angry. It was tired. I'm not leaving either, Caleb said. Victor sighed. He pulled out a phone, looked at it, then put it away. I'm not helping you, but I'm not stopping you. Do what you want. He limped away, disappearing into the morning fog. Caleb waited until the footsteps faded. Then he crouched again. The wolf watched him. Okay, Caleb whispered. Okay. He examined the trap. Old, rusted. The spring mechanism was visible, a coiled metal rod pinned by a trigger plate. He'd seen traps like this in videos, if he could find a way to depress the trigger without releasing the jaws. He pulled out his pocket knife. The blade was small but sharp. He slid it between the trap's teeth and the wolf's leg. The animal flinched but didn't bite. Easy, easy. He found the trigger plate, pressed down with the flat of the blade. Metal groaned. The wolf whimpered a small sound, almost like a dog. The jaws opened a fraction. Caleb grabbed the trap with both hands and pulled. Rust flaked off. The wolf yelped. Then the trap released. The wolf scrambled backward, dragging its injured leg. It stood on 3 legs, trembling, watching Caleb. The leg left a smear of blood on the snow. Go, Caleb said. Get out of here. The wolf took 3 limping steps, stopped, looked back at Caleb, then it turned and limped toward the trees. Caleb stood there, heart racing, hand shaking. The trap lay in the snow, still wet with blood. He should go, find shelter, figure out his next move. Instead, he looked down. Fresh footprints in the new snow, a trail of blood drops, leading away from the dump, leading toward the old slaughterhouse half a mile into the woods. Caleb followed. The blood trail led Caleb through a stand of bare birch trees. Every few feet, a dark red drop stained the snow. The wolf had stopped twice to rest, deep impressions in the powder, urine yellowing the edges. Pain, Caleb thought. The animal was in pain and still moving. The slaughterhouse appeared through the fog like a skeleton. Gray concrete walls, a collapsed roof on one side, windows shattered years ago. A rusted conveyor belt hung out of a loading dock, its metal teeth frozen midair. The place smelled like wet iron and old rot. Caleb stepped through a gap in the wall. Inside, the floor was slick with ice. Hooks dangled from ceiling beams, meat hooks, still swinging slightly as if something had brushed them. The wolf lay in the far corner, pressed against a pile of stained burlap sacks. Its chest heaved. The injured leg was stretched out, the fur around the wound now dark green at the edges. Infected. Caleb didn't need a vet to see that. He crouched 20 feet away. The wolf lifted its head, then let it fall back. No growl this time, no energy for it. Okay, Caleb whispered. I need to think. He had nothing. No medicine, no clean bandages, no phone signal. The nearest town was Millbrook, 3 miles back, but there was a veterinary clinic on Main Street. He walked past it 100 times. Dr. Patel's practice. Small glass building with a neon paw print in the window. He could break in, steal antibiotics. The thought made his stomach clench. He'd stolen before candy from the gas station when he was 12, a cheap watch from a department store when he was 14. But this was different. This was a real crime, breaking and entering. Theft of controlled drugs. He looked at the wolf. The animal's eye was half closed. Its breathing sounded wet, like something was filling its lungs. If I don't, you die, Caleb said. The wolf didn't answer. Caleb made a decision. He pulled off his jacket, folded it, and slid it under the wolf's head. The animal didn't react, just let its cheek rest on the dirty fabric. Caleb's hands shook from cold and fear and something else. Something that felt like purpose. He walked back toward town. The sun had fully risen now. Ice melted on the power lines. A school bus passed on the main road, and Caleb ducked behind a dumpster. His face was probably on a missing poster already. His mother would have filed a report. The sheriff would be looking. He waited until the bus turned, then ran across the road. The veterinary clinic was at the end of a strip mall between a laundromat and a dollar store. A sign on the door said closed for inventory, but Caleb had seen Dr. Patel leave at 5 o'clock every day. The place would be empty until morning. He circled the building. A back window was cracked, a hairline fracture from a rock or a frozen branch. He pushed his pocket knife into the gap, pried gently. The window slid open. He climbed through, landed on a tiled floor that smelled of antiseptic and animal fur. The clinic was small. An exam table, a scale, cabinets along the wall, a fridge in the corner. Caleb went to the fridge first. Inside, vaccines, insulin, a bottle of something called Clavamox, antibiotics. He grabbed the bottle, plus a box of syringes, a roll of gauze, and a small bottle of antiseptic solution. He stuffed everything into his backpack. A light flicked on. Caleb froze. A shadow moved behind the frosted glass of the front door. Then a key turned. The lock clicked. Caleb scrambled back toward the window. His foot hit a metal stool. The crash echoed through the room. The front door opened. Who's there? A man's voice. Not Dr. Patel, too gruff, too familiar. Caleb shoved the window open. The frame caught on his backpack. He yanked it free and dropped to the concrete outside. His ankle twisted. He ran. Behind him, the back door slammed open. Hey, stop. Caleb didn't stop. He cut between two buildings, hit the main road, and kept running. His lungs burned. The stolen supplies bounced against his spine. He didn't look back until he reached the tree line. No one followed. He leaned against an oak tree, gasping, and pulled out the antibiotic bottle. Clavamox for veterinary use only. He had no idea if the dosage was right for a wolf, but a wolf was just a big dog, wasn't it? He'd figure it out. He walked back to the slaughterhouse. The sun was already dropping. He'd been gone 2 hours. When he pushed through the gap in the wall, the wolf was still there, still breathing, still alive. Caleb knelt beside it, drew the antiseptic into a syringe. This is going to hurt. I'm sorry. The wolf watched him with its one good eye. Didn't move. Caleb cleaned the wound. The wolf whimpered once, then went still. He injected the antibiotic into the muscle of the shoulder, just like he'd seen in a YouTube video once. The wolf flinched but didn't bite. When he finished, he sat back. His hands were covered in blood and pus and iodine. There he said, "Now we wait." Outside, the wind picked up. Snow began to fall. And then footsteps, heavy boots, a man's cough. Caleb's blood turned to ice. A voice, "I know you're in there, boy." The voice belonged to a man Caleb had never heard before, but he knew the name Dobbs. The trapper Victor had warned him about, the one who'd poisoned the wolf's pack, the one who'd set the illegal trap. Caleb looked at the wolf. The animal's ears had gone flat against its skull. A low growl started deep in its chest, quiet, barely audible, but real. "Stay quiet," Caleb whispered. The footsteps circled the slaughterhouse, boots crunching on frozen gravel. Dobbs muttered to himself. Caleb caught fragments. "Know you're here. Saw the tracks. Gonna skin you myself." Caleb scanned the room. There was a freezer locker in the back, one of those old walk-in units from when the slaughterhouse still operated. The door hung open. Inside, darkness, cold, maybe a place to hide. He grabbed the wolf's fur gently but firmly. "Come on, please." The wolf didn't move. Its growl grew louder. "Please," Caleb hissed. "Trust me." The wolf looked at him. One yellow eye, then it tried to stand. Its injured leg buckled, but it dragged itself forward. Caleb helped one hand under the wolf's chest, one hand pulling the burlap sacks to hide their trail. They made it to the freezer door. Caleb pushed the wolf inside. Then he slipped in after. The door swung shut behind them. A sliver of light came through a crack in the hinges. The rest was black. The cold in the freezer was brutal. Caleb's breath fogged instantly. The walls were coated in frost. Metal meat hooks hung from the ceiling, clicking together like teeth. The wolf pressed against Caleb's legs, warmth, weight, trust. Its body shook. From fear or cold, Caleb couldn't tell. Footsteps entered the slaughterhouse. Dobbs was inside now. Caleb heard him kick something metal, heard him curse. Come out, Dobbs sang. His voice was a low rumble, wet with something whiskey, maybe. "I know you're in here, wolf. I caught your scent on the wind." The wolf's growl spiked. Caleb put a hand over its muzzle. The fur was rough. The animal's teeth pressed against his palm, but didn't break skin. "SHH," Caleb breathed. "SHH." Dobbs walked past the freezer. His shadow passed the crack in the door. Caleb stopped breathing. "I'll find you," Dobbs said, "and when I do, I'll put a bolt through your skull. Then I'll find that kid who freed you. He's a runaway. No one'll miss him." Caleb's heart slammed against his ribs. His hand stayed on the wolf's muzzle. Dobbs kicked another pile of debris. He was close now, 10 feet away. Maybe less. The freezer handle rattled. Caleb squeezed his eyes shut. Then a phone rang. Dobbs answered it. "What?" A pause. "Yeah, I'm at the old slaughterhouse." "No, I haven't found it yet. The tracks go cold." Another pause. "Fine, I'll be there in 20. The footsteps retreated. The door slammed. Silence. Caleb waited 5 minutes. 10. Then he pushed the freezer door open. The slaughterhouse was empty. Snow blew through the broken windows. Dobbs was gone. Caleb leaned against the freezer wall and slid to the floor. His legs wouldn't stop shaking. The wolf limped out of the freezer and lay down beside him. Its head rested on Caleb's thigh. They stayed like that for a long time. When Caleb finally stood, he knew they couldn't stay here. Dobbs would come back. He'd bring help. The wolf needed somewhere safe, somewhere hidden. He remembered the grain silo, half a mile deeper into the woods behind the old mill, abandoned for years, a place he'd explored once with friends before they all stopped being friends. "We're moving," Caleb told the wolf. The animal looked up. It didn't argue. Caleb tore a strip from his shirt and wrapped the wolf's leg. Then he walked. The wolf followed. Slow, every few steps, it stopped to rest. Caleb waited each time. It took an hour to reach the silo. The structure stood like a concrete tomb, stained with rust and bird droppings. Inside, dead grass and old hay bales dry, almost warm. Caleb cleared a space in the corner. The wolf lay down immediately. Caleb checked the wound. The swelling hadn't spread. The antibiotic might be working. He pulled out the last granola bar, broke it in half, gave one piece to the wolf. The animal sniffed it, then ate. "You're not so tough," Caleb said. The wolf closed its eye. That night, Caleb dreamed of his mother. She was sitting at the kitchen table, crying into her hands. He tried to touch her, but his hand went through her like smoke. He woke up with frost on his hair and the wolf's breath warm on his cheek. 3 days later, when Caleb finally walked into town for supplies, he saw the missing poster, his face. Below it, another poster, $500, reward wolf killed on site. Dobbs number, and someone had circled both posters with red marker. The grain silo offered shelter but no warmth. Caleb had piled hay against the curved concrete walls, hoping to trap what little heat their bodies produced. The wolf lay in the center of the nest, its head on its paws, its breathing rough and uneven. 3 days had passed since the antibiotic injection. 3 days of Caleb checking the wound each morning, each night. The swelling had gone down at first. The green edges had faded to pink, but now something had changed. The wolf's fur felt hot to the touch. Caleb pressed his palm to the animal's side. The heat radiated through the thick gray coat. Fever. The infection had come back. "No," Caleb whispered. "No, no, no." He had no more antibiotics. The bottle from the clinic was empty. He'd used the last dose that morning, hoping it would be enough. It wasn't. The wolf's eye opened. The yellow seemed duller than before, cloudy. The animal tried to lift its head, but couldn't. A small whimper escaped its throat, a sound so quiet, so vulnerable, that Caleb felt something crack inside his chest. He sat back on his heels. The silo's interior was dark, even at noon. Only a thin blade of light cut through a rust hole near the ceiling. Dust motes floated in the beam. Outside, the wind had picked up. The forecast on the gas station TV before he'd stolen the medicine had called for a storm. Heavy snow. Temperatures dropping to -20. Caleb pulled out his phone. Dead. He'd stopped checking it days ago. What would he do if it worked? Call his mom. Tell her he was hiding in a grain silo with a feverish wolf. He wrapped his arms around his knees and rocked slightly. The cold was getting to him. His fingers were numb. His toes felt like blocks of wood. He'd burned his jacket back at the slaughterhouse to make heat, a stupid move he regretted every night since. Now he wore only a thin hoodie and a torn flannel shirt. He looked at the wolf again. The animal's chest heaved. Each breath came faster than the last. "I need to get you more medicine," Caleb said, "but I can't go back to the clinic. Dobbs is watching it." The wolf didn't respond. Caleb thought about Victor, the old vet with the limp and the sad eyes. Victor had supplies. Victor had helped animals before, but Victor had also said he wouldn't help. He walked away. But maybe if Caleb asked again, maybe if he explained. He stood up. His legs ached from sleeping on frozen hay. "I'll be back," he told the wolf. "I promise." He left the silo. The wind hit him like a wall. Snow blew horizontally, stinging his face. He pulled his hood up and started walking toward Victor's trailer. The walk took 40 minutes. Each step was a battle against the drift. By the time he reached the trailer park on the edge of town, his jeans were frozen stiff. His lips were cracked. His nose had stopped running, too cold for even that. Victor's trailer was a rusted aluminum box at the end of a gravel lane. A satellite dish hung crooked from the roof. Smoke curled from a pipe chimney. Caleb knocked. No answer. He knocked again, harder. The door opened. Victor stood there in a stained undershirt and sweatpants. His eyes widened when he saw Caleb's face. "You look like death," Victor said. "The wolf has a fever," Caleb said. His voice came out slurred. His lips barely moved. "I need more antibiotics, please." Victor looked past Caleb at the storm. "Get inside." Caleb stepped into the trailer. The heat hit him like a fist, warm, dry, almost painful after so many days in the cold. The place smelled of coffee and cigarette smoke and something medicinal. A rifle stood in the corner by the door. Caleb's eyes went to it. "Don't mind that," Victor said. "Sit." Caleb sat on a plastic chair. His whole body shook. Victor wrapped a blanket around his shoulders, then put a mug of coffee in his hands. The heat burned his palms. He didn't care. "Tell me," Victor said. Caleb told him everything. The slaughterhouse, the stolen medicine, Dobbs finding them, the move to the silo, the fever. Victor listened without interrupting. When Caleb finished, the old man poured himself a cup of coffee and stared into the black liquid. "I have antibiotics," Victor said slowly. "Amoxicillin. Enough for a week, but I'm not giving them to you for free." Caleb's stomach dropped. "I have $15. "I don't want your money." Victor set down the mug. "I want you to let me call child services. You're a runaway, kid. That's trouble I can't carry. The sheriff came by yesterday, asked about you. I lied, said I hadn't seen you." Caleb's hands tightened on the mug. "You can't." "I can, and I will, unless," Victor leaned forward, "unless you promise to go home. Tomorrow, not to child services. Home to your mother." Caleb's throat closed. He thought of his mom's face. The way she looked the last time he saw her, tired, disappointed, her hands shaking from withdrawal or worry or both. He'd walked out without a word, left the door open, let the cold in. "She probably doesn't want me back," Caleb said. "She put up missing posters all over town," Victor said quietly. "She came to my door herself, crying, asking if I'd seen you. She wants you back." Caleb stared at the coffee. The steam rose and disappeared. "You help the wolf tonight," Caleb said, "and I go home tomorrow. Deal?" Victor nodded. He stood up, walked to a cabinet, and pulled out a brown bottle and a syringe. "Let's go." They hiked to the silo together. Victor moved slowly, his limp worse in the snow. When they reached the wolf, Victor knelt beside it with a gentleness that surprised Caleb. "Easy, Nayas," Victor murmured. "Easy, old friend." The wolf didn't growl. It let Victor examine the wound, palpate the swelling, check the fever. Victor drew up the antibiotic and injected it into the wolf's hindquarter. "He'll live," Victor said, "if the fever breaks by morning." Caleb nodded. His eyes burned with tears he refused to shed. Victor stood. "I'll come back at dawn. If he's better, you keep your promise." He limped away into the storm. Caleb sat beside the wolf. The animal's breathing slowly steadied. The fever still burned, but something in its posture had relaxed. Caleb lay down in the hay, pressed his face against the wolf's warm fur, and closed his eyes. When he woke, the wolf was gone. Caleb shot up. The hay was empty. The place where the wolf had lain still held warmth, but the animal had vanished. Only a few dark hairs remained, caught on the rough fabric of the burlap sacks. "No," Caleb said. His voice echoed off the concrete walls. He scrambled to the silo door. Snow poured in. The storm had worsened overnight. Drifts had piled against the entrance, nearly sealing it shut. Caleb pushed through and looked around. Footprints. The wolf's paw prints, uneven because of the injured leg, leading away from the silo toward the highway. And beside them another set of tracks. Boots. Large boots with a deep tread. Tire tracks cut through the fresh snow. A vehicle had parked at the edge of the tree line. The tracks led from the driver's side to the footprints, then back again. Dobbs' truck. Caleb had seen it once, parked outside the bar on Main Street. Green Ford rusted wheel wells, a gun rack in the back window. Caleb ran. His boots slipped on the ice. His lungs burned. He followed the footprints and paw prints through the trees, over a frozen creek, past a collapsed fence. The wind howled in his ears. Snow filled his eyes. He reached a dirt road, and there 50 yards ahead Dobbs' truck. Engine running, exhaust puffing gray smoke into the white sky. Caleb crept closer. The truck was parked beside an old barn, its roof half collapsed, its doors hanging open. Through the gaps in the walls, Caleb saw light, a kerosene lantern, and movement. He peered through a crack between two boards. The wolf was inside, caged. A heavy wire trap, the kind used for coyotes, had been pulled shut around the animal. The wolf lay on its side, too weak to fight, its chest still heaving with the fever. Its tongue hung out, its eye was closed. And standing over it, a bolt gun in his hand, was Dobbs. The man was thick and red-faced, with a gray beard stained yellow around the mouth. He wore a fur hat and a canvas coat splattered with old blood. He was drunk. Caleb could see it in the way he swayed, the way he slurred his words as he talked to himself. "There you are," Prince Dobbs muttered. "Been after you 2 years. Cost me 6 dogs, you did. 6 good dogs." He raised the bolt gun. "Now I get your pelt." Caleb looked around for something, anything he could use. A broken board lay in the snow. He grabbed it. The wood was wet, splintered, but solid. He stepped through the barn door. "Hey." Dobbs turned. His eyes, bloodshot and small, fixed on Caleb. "Who the hell are you?" "Let him go." Dobbs laughed. It was a wet, phlegmy sound. "You're that kid, the runaway. The one who freed him from my trap." He lowered the bolt gun but didn't put it down. "You got nerve, I'll give you that. Stupid nerve." Caleb's hand tightened on the board. "I said let him go." "Or what? You'll hit me with a piece of wood." Dobbs took a step closer. "I've been trapping since before you were born, boy. I've killed bears with my bare hands. You think I'm scared of a skinny runaway with a death wish?" The wolf stirred in the cage. Its eye opened. It looked at Caleb. Caleb remembered holding the broken bottle at the slaughterhouse, remembered the rage that had gotten him expelled. That same rage was rising now, hot, dizzying, ready to explode. But the wolf kept watching him. Calm, waiting. Dobbs raised the bolt gun again. "Turn around and walk out. I won't tell the sheriff I saw you." Caleb didn't move. "Last chance," Dobbs said. Caleb lowered the board. "I'm not you," he said. "I'm not a killer." Dobbs laughed again. He raised the bolt gun to the wolf's head. Then the barn door opened wider. A flashlight beam cut through the dim light. "Dobbs," a voice called. "We got a report of shots out here." Sheriff Miller stepped into the barn. Behind him, Victor. The old vet was pale, breathing hard, his limp worse than ever, but his eyes were sharp. Dobbs cursed. "It's not what it looks like." "Looks like you got an illegal trap and an illegal weapon," the sheriff said. "Looks like you're about to kill a protected animal." He pulled out his radio. "I'm calling this in." Dobbs dropped the bolt gun. It clattered on the frozen dirt. He ran for the back door of the barn, shoved it open, and disappeared into the storm. The sheriff didn't chase him. He turned to Caleb. "You're Caleb Mills, aren't you? Your mother's been sick with worry." Caleb nodded. He couldn't speak. The sheriff walked to the cage. He looked at the wolf. Then he looked at Caleb. "This animal yours?" "No," Caleb said. "He's not mine. He's his own." The sheriff unlocked the cage. The wolf didn't attack. It climbed out slowly, painfully, and walked to Caleb. It leaned against his leg. Its head rested against his hip. The sheriff stared. "That's not possible," he whispered. But it was. Caleb knelt and put his arms around the wolf's neck. The animal's fur was hot. Its heartbeat was fast but steady, and for one long moment, neither of them moved. Sheriff Miller drove Caleb home. The squad cars smelled like coffee and wet wool. Heat blasted from the vents, and for the first time in a week, Caleb felt his fingers again. The wolf had disappeared into the trees behind the barn. Victor promised to check on it. Caleb watched the forest shrink in the side mirror until there was nothing but white. "Your mother filed a missing person report 4 days ago," the sheriff said. He kept his eyes on the road. "She's been calling every hour." Caleb didn't answer. His throat felt too tight. They passed the water tower, the high school, the gas station where he used to buy candy after class. Everything looked the same, but everything felt different. The streets were narrower. The sky was lower. He didn't belong here anymore. The sheriff pulled into the driveway of a small gray house. The paint was peeling. The gutters were clogged with ice. A single light burned in the front window. "Go on," the sheriff said. "She's waiting." Caleb got out. His legs moved on their own. Each step felt like walking through deep water. He reached the front door. His hand hovered over the knob. Then the door opened. Laura Mills stood in the doorway. Her hair was greasy, pulled back in a loose ponytail. Dark circles hung under her eyes. She wore an old bathrobe over pajamas. Her hands shook not from withdrawal this time, but from something else. Something raw. "Caleb," she said. That was all, just his name. He opened his mouth to speak, but nothing came out. His eyes burned. His chin trembled. Laura stepped forward and wrapped her arms around him. She was smaller than he remembered. Thinner, but her grip was strong. She pulled him into the house and held him against her chest. "I'm sorry," Caleb whispered into her shoulder. "I'm sorry, Mom." "I know," she said. "I know." They stood like that for a long time. The clock on the wall ticked. The furnace kicked on. Somewhere in the kitchen, water dripped from the faucet. Finally, Laura pulled back. She cupped his face in her hands. "You're cold. You're so cold. When did you last eat?" "I don't remember." She led him to the kitchen, made him sit at the table, put a bowl of soup in front of him, canned chicken noodle, the kind he'd eaten since he was a kid. He ate without tasting. She watched him the whole time. "The sheriff told me," she said quietly, "about the wolf." Caleb put down the spoon. "I had to help him." "I know." Laura sat across from him. "Victor called me too. He said you saved that animal's life, said you risked your own to do it." Caleb stared at the soup. "I broke into a vet clinic. I stole medicine. I could go to jail." "You could," Laura said, "but you won't. The sheriff isn't pressing charges. He says you did something brave." "It wasn't brave. I was scared the whole time." "That's what brave is." Laura reached across the table and took his hand. Her fingers were cold. Being scared and doing it anyway. Caleb felt something crack inside him. The wall he'd built around his chest, the one that kept out guilt and shame and hope, it started to crumble. Tears spilled down his cheeks. He didn't wipe them away. "I'm not going to the school board meeting tomorrow," Laura said. "You are. You're going to tell them what happened. And then we're going to accept whatever they decide." Caleb nodded. His nose ran. His whole face felt hot. That night, he lay in his own bed. The ceiling was the same water stain in the corner, the same crack in the baseboard, but nothing felt the same. He listened to his mother's breathing through the wall. The furnace hummed. The refrigerator clicked on and off. At 3 a.m., something scratched at his window. He sat up, pushed aside the curtain. The wolf stood in the snow below, gray fur against white ground, one yellow eye looking up at him. The injured leg held weight, now still stiff but healing. The animal sat in the moonlight, perfectly still. Caleb pressed his palm against the cold glass. The wolf held his gaze for a long moment. Then it stood, turned, and walked toward the trees. At the edge of the yard, it stopped, looked back once, twice. Then it was gone. Caleb lay back down. He didn't sleep, but he wasn't afraid anymore. The school board met in the library. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. The air smelled like old paper and floor wax. A long table sat at the front, 5 adults behind it, the principal, 3 school board members, and a woman from the district office. Caleb sat alone at a smaller table facing them. His mother wasn't allowed inside. The hallway outside held her footsteps, pacing back and forth. Mark Henderson sat in the front row of the audience. His nose had healed, but something in his face hadn't. He wouldn't look at Caleb. His father, a thick man with a red face, whispered to a board member before the meeting started. Caleb's hands rested on his knees. His palms were sweaty. He wore the cleanest clothes he could find, jeans with no holes, a plain gray sweatshirt. His hair was still matted from the silo. Principal Barnes cleared his throat. This hearing is to determine the status of Caleb Mills following his expulsion for physical assault on another student. He glanced at Caleb. You have the right to speak. Anything you say will be considered. Caleb stood up. His chair scraped the floor. The sound echoed. I'm not going to make excuses, he said. His voice came out rough. He cleared his throat. I hit Mark. I broke his nose. I shouldn't have done that. Mark's father shifted in his seat. He admitted it. Expel him. Let him finish, said a board member, an older woman with gray hair and reading glasses. Caleb took a breath. The week before the fight, my mom lost her job. She'd been sober for 3 months, but she started drinking again. I came home one night and found her on the bathroom floor. I had to call an ambulance. Silence. The fluorescent lights buzzed. I didn't tell anyone at school, Caleb continued. I just showed up tired, angry. Mark kept pushing me all week, calling my mom names, saying things he didn't know anything about, and finally I snapped. Mark's father stood up. That doesn't excuse. Sit down, the gray-haired board member said. Caleb looked at Mark. For the first time, Mark met his eyes. Something passed between them, not forgiveness, but something close. Understanding, maybe. I ran away after the expulsion, Caleb said. I lived in the woods for a week. I found a wolf trapped in a snare. It was hurt. It was dying, and I decided to help it. A wolf? The principal raised his eyebrows. Yes, sir, a wolf named Nias. The locals call him the prince. Caleb told them about the stolen medicine, the slaughterhouse, Dobbs, the fever, the barn. He told them about Victor, about the sheriff, about the wolf leaning against his leg when the cage opened. When he finished, the room was silent. Mark's father spoke again, softer this time. That's a nice story, but my son still got hurt. Caleb turned to Mark. I'm sorry. I mean it. I'm sorry I hit you. I'm sorry I didn't walk away. Mark looked at his father. Then back at Caleb. He's not lying, Mark said quietly. I did push him. All week. I said things about his mom. He swallowed. I'm sorry to. The board members exchanged glances. They whispered among themselves. The gray-haired woman wrote something on a notepad. We'll deliberate, the principal said. Wait outside. Caleb walked into the hallway. His mother grabbed his arms. What happened? What did they say? They haven't decided yet. They waited. 5 minutes. 10. The clock on the wall ticked. Laura held Caleb's hand. Her grip was tight. The door opened. Principal Barnes stepped out. Caleb, he said, come back in. Caleb walked to the table. The board members looked at him. The gray-haired woman smiled slightly. By a vote of 3-2, the principal said, we have voted to readmit you on probation. You'll attend counseling once a week. You'll complete 50 hours of community service, and you'll maintain a C average. If you violate any of these conditions, you'll be permanently expelled. Caleb nodded. His throat was too tight to speak. Welcome back, Mr. Mills, the principal said. Outside the school, the sun had broken through the clouds. Victor leaned against the fence, holding a leash. The leash was empty. The prince is back in the old silo, Victor said. He won't leave. I think he's waiting for you. Caleb looked at the trees. Somewhere out there, a gray shape was watching. I know, he said. I'll go see him. But first, he turned and hugged his mother. She cried into his shoulder, and for the first time in a long time, Caleb didn't feel like running. Caleb walked the path alone. The snow had stopped falling 2 days ago, and the world had grown quiet under a thick white blanket. His boots left deep prints. Each step crunched like breaking bone. The sun hung low in the sky, pale and cold, throwing long shadows across the trees. He had promised Victor he would go, not because Victor asked, because something inside him needed to see the wolf one more time. The silo appeared through the bare branches like a gray ghost. Its concrete walls were streaked with rust. The opening faced south, dark as a mouth. Caleb stopped at the edge of the clearing. The wolf was there. Nias lay on a patch of frozen hay just inside the entrance. His injured legs stretched out to the side, the fur still thin around the healing wound, but the swelling was gone. The fever had broken 3 days ago. The animal's ribs still showed through his coat, but his breathing was steady. His one good eye was open. He watched Caleb approach, didn't growl, didn't move. Caleb sat down 10 feet away. The snow soaked through his jeans immediately, but he didn't care. He pulled his knees to his chest and wrapped his arms around them. Hey, he said. His voice was quiet. You look better. The wolf blinked. Caleb looked around the silo. The hay where they had slept together was still pressed flat. The empty antibiotic bottle lay in a corner. A piece of the burlap sack still held the shape of the wolf's body. This place had been his home for a week. Now it felt like a museum. I went back, Caleb said, to school. They let me in, probation, but still, I have to see a counselor, do community service. He picked up a handful of snow, let it fall through his fingers. My mom is sober again. She started going to meetings. I think she means it this time. The wolf's ear twitched. Victor said you won't leave this place. Caleb looked at the animal. He said you're waiting for me. Is that true? The wolf didn't answer, but it lifted its head slightly, just enough to show it was listening. Caleb thought about everything that had happened in the past 2 weeks. The expulsion, the frozen tracks, the trap, the stolen medicine, Dobbs' bolt gun, the sheriff's flashlight, his mother's arms around him in the doorway. I used to think a wolf ticket meant you were nothing, Caleb said. The janitor at school told me that, said it means you don't belong anywhere. Like a wolf that got kicked out of the pack. No home, no future. He paused. The wind blew through the silo. Dust and old hay swirled. But that's not what it means. Caleb looked at the wolf's yellow eye. You lost your pack, you lost everything, but you didn't stop. You survived, and when someone helped you, you let them. You trusted me even though every part of you should have bitten my hand off. The wolf's tail moved, just once, a slow sweep across the hay. I'm not going to stay out here, Caleb said. I have to go home. I have to finish school. I have to be someone my mom can be proud of. His voice cracked, but I wanted you to know. You changed me, not the school board, not the sheriff, you. He sat in silence for a long time. The sun dropped lower. The shadows grew longer. His fingers turned white with cold. The wolf stood up. Slowly, favoring the injured leg, Nayez walked toward Caleb. 3 steps. 4, the animal stopped inches from Caleb's face. Its breath fogged the air between them. The yellow eye held Caleb's gaze. Then the wolf leaned forward and pressed its nose against Caleb's cheek. The touch was cold and rough. It lasted only a second. Then the wolf pulled back, turned, and limped toward the tree line. At the edge of the clearing, it stopped. Look back. Caleb didn't follow. The wolf walked into the trees. This time, it didn't look back again. Caleb sat in the snow until the sun touched the horizon. Then he stood up, brushed off his jeans, and walked home. His mother was waiting on the porch. She didn't ask where he had been. She just handed him a cup of hot chocolate and put her arm around his shoulders. That night, Caleb dreamed of wolves running through the snow. A whole pack of them, gray shapes against white, and in the front, a one-eyed wolf leading the way. 6 months passed. The snow melted. The roads turned to mud. Then the mud dried, and the trees grew green again. Caleb finished his probation without a single incident. His grades went from D's to B's. The counselor stopped asking about his anger and started asking about college. Laura Mills celebrated 6 months of sobriety. She got a job at the grocery store. She came home every night at the same time. She cooked dinner. She asked about his day. It was strange at first. Then it became normal. Victor opened an animal rescue. It was just a shed behind his trailer at first, but the town threw in some money after Dobbs was arrested for poaching and animal cruelty. The sheriff made sure Victor got a proper license. Now the shed held 3 injured dogs, a raccoon with a broken leg, and a barn cat that refused to leave. Caleb volunteered there every Saturday. His community service hours had ended months ago, but he kept coming. Victor taught him how to give shots, how to clean wounds, how to tell when an animal was in shock and when it was just scared. You got a gift, Victor told him one afternoon. They were sitting on the trailer steps drinking coffee. The dogs barked inside. Not everyone can earn the trust of a wild thing. I didn't earn it, Caleb said. He gave it to me, for free. Victor nodded. That's what gifts are. On the wall of the rescue shed, Victor hung a game camera photo. It showed a gray wolf, one-eyed, walking along a ridge above the old slaughterhouse. The photo was dated 3 weeks ago. The wolf looked healthy, strong. Under the photo, Caleb had written in marker, "Naya's still watching." One Tuesday afternoon, Caleb sat at the kitchen table doing homework. The window was open. A warm breeze carried the smell of cut grass. His phone buzzed. An email from a Dr. Helen Reeves at the State Department of Natural Resources. Dear Caleb, Victor gave me your name. We've been tracking a wolf pack in the northern part of the county, 3 adults, 4 pups. The alpha male fits the description of the wolf you helped last winter. We need a field assistant for the summer. The pay is minimal, but the experience is real. Let me know if you're interested. Caleb read the email twice, then 3 times. He looked out the window. The trees at the edge of the yard swayed in the wind. Somewhere out there in the deep woods, a gray shape might be watching, or maybe not. Maybe the prince had moved on, found a new pack, left this part of the world behind. But the email said 7 wolves, a pack, a family. Caleb picked up his phone. His thumb hovered over the reply button. He thought about the railroad tracks, the cold, the trap, the wolf's yellow eye watching him in the dark. He thought about the moment in the barn when he lowered the broken bottle and said, "I'm not you." He thought about his mother's arms around him in the doorway. He thought about Victor's voice, "You got a gift." He typed, "Dr. Reeves, I'm interested. When do I start?" He pressed send. That evening, Caleb walked to the edge of the woods behind the house. The sun was setting. The sky turned orange and purple. He stood in the tall grass and listened. Crickets, birds, the distant sound of a train. And then, far away, a howl. Low, long, lonely. Caleb smiled. He didn't know if the howl came from Naya's. He didn't know if he would ever see the wolf again. But he knew something else now, something the janitor had never understood. A wolf ticket wasn't a mark of shame. It wasn't a sentence to a life alone. It was a choice. You could run, or you could come home. You could bite, or you could trust. You could stay in the cold, or you could walk into the warm light of a kitchen where your mother was waiting with hot chocolate. Caleb turned away from the woods. He walked back to the house. The screen door banged behind him. "Dinner in 10, Laura called from the kitchen. "Okay, Mom." He sat down at the table. His homework waited. His future waited, and for the first time in his life, Caleb Mills wasn't afraid of it. Outside, the sun dipped below the horizon. The stars came out one by one, and somewhere in the dark forest, a one-eyed wolf ran with his pack, free and wild, and exactly where he belonged.